Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the HUD OCIO Learning Session. I'm Dr. Melanie Cohen. We have a great topic in store today. We're going to be discussing developing a professional online presence. And with us, we have Dr. Dawn Edmiston from the College of William & Mary. So let me tell you just a little bit about Dawn, and then we'll get into the topic. So Dawn has more than 20 years of marketing experience in consulting, media, and education sectors. She's also recently been cited in CIO and Fortune magazines. She's taught at several colleges, including Howard University, Johns Hopkins University, St. Vincent College, Trinity College, West Virginia University, and she's currently a clinical associate professor of marketing in the Raymond A. Mason School of Business at the College of William & Mary. And just on a personal note, Dawn and I got our doctorates together, so we're good friends. And once you go through those kind of trenches together, bonds are formed. So Dawn, welcome very much to the show. We appreciate very much that you're here with us. And when we talk about a professional online presence, I think the professional part is the part we want to key in on, because I think a lot of us have an online presence, but we may not be putting our best face forward there. So, and I know the topic today is going to help us in terms of doing that.
Yes.
So again, thank you for being here with us, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I am too, thank you. And what I want to share with you today is this concept of developing POP. Professional online presence. And I want to explain the reason that POP is important. So often we hear in marketing, we refer to these concepts of branding and brands. And we often refer to them when we are citing brands like Apple or Google. And we do not think of ourselves as being a brand. And we may not even want to think of ourselves as being a brand. But as you said, we all have an online presence, whether or not it's the presence that we intend to have. So why might a brand be important for you? In this case, the value of a professional brand presence could be helpful to you in your current career, and you're seeking to advance your current role or grow your influence within your organization. And I'm certain that there are many of us who are considering career transitions. In fact, we live in a generation when we're transitioning careers more often than ever. And having a powerful professional online presence is a great asset in that regard. So developing POP is an essential part of branding. And now that we understand that, I want to provide background on how the online environment is changing and how that can potentially affect us. To start, I want to emphasize the fact that information found online provides a digital footprint that implicitly brands people. Whether or not you are explicitly deciding whether or not you want to have an online presence, online information is implicitly branding you. So it's important for you to be very active in developing a professional online presence. A few points to consider. Each day, 20% of Google searches have never been done before. That's how quickly the online environment is changing, and that we're changing with it. In 10 years, over 40% of the Fortune 500 will no longer be here. And perhaps most astonishing, 92% of children under the age of 2 in the US have a digital footprint.
It's unbelievable.
So they are not choosing to have Twitter accounts or Facebook profiles at that point in their life, but they already have a digital footprint that is being created. So it is not, we do not have a choice. We do have a chance to change it, but we do not have a choice on whether we do social media. The question is how well we do it. And that's a quote from Eric Wallman. He's developed a wonderful concept called socialnomics, and the statistics that I provided on the previous slides were cited from his work in socialnomics. So now that we have a background, we understand the power of branding. We understand how the world is changing. Now I want to challenge you to think about your own brand promise. So what should customers and employers expect from your products and services? So I've developed my own personal brand promise, and I like to think that I teach people how to pursue and promote their passions. And it's my hope that through this learning session, that that's another way that I'm continuing to reinforce my personal brand promise.
So before you go on, I love that idea, so that each person develops their own brand promise. So that's the way that you convey yourself to the world, right?
Yes. And that you need to take actions to fulfill that brand promise.
Right.
So recently I was asked to contribute to a research project on Bitcoins. Wonderful opportunity to work with great colleagues. But it did not necessarily reflect teaching people how to pursue and promote their passions. So I declined the invitation because choosing to do a project of that nature might mean that I don't have time to do opportunities like this. And I really value these opportunities. And so that's my focus now. That's my personal brand promise. And that's what I want you to know about me when you see me online.
Right.
And that's what I want my actions to reinforce in developing that personal brand of mine.
You know, and that's terrific, because what that does is, I think today what happens is people overcommit. And so when they overcommit, they're really not doing service to anything, frankly. And so what you've done with this, with creating a brand promise for yourself, is that you are only going to work on the things that are within this commitment you've sort of made to yourself on, this is who I am.
Yes.
Now, wouldn't that be interesting if other people took that to heart and actually did that? Because I don't think a lot of people do that.
I agree. And this is something that I do. I mean, it has changed my life.
I'm sure it has.
And it's been really powerful. I'm not only preaching it, but I'm definitely practicing it.
That's terrific.
So if I were to ask your audience, changing the world through innovation, who might you think, who might that personal brand promise be reflective of?
I'm sure the audience is thinking about that, but
one of the first names that might come to mind is Steve Jobs. Yes.
Right.
Yes. So changing the world through innovation would be a really powerful personal brand promise of Steve Jobs. So this is something that I want to challenge each of you to consider as we move forward, because the personal brand promise is what's going to be the foundation for the professional online presence that you build. So now that we understand the importance of brand promise, we want to reflect upon who can benefit from my services and how can I reach those individuals. So one of the ways that we can reach those individuals is through social media. And what I will share in this Developing POP 10-step process to creating a professional online presence is how you can use social media as a communication channel, not only for professional purposes, but personal purposes as well. So as we get started with this 10-step process, it is very important that you create an online identity and create a brand and a brand name that's reflective of you as an individual. So this is something I know that you and I have talked about in the past.
Right.
Because one of the important gifts that we had given to ourselves was to purchase our own domain names.
Right.
And so I own www.dawnedmiston.com. There may be individuals in the audience, though, who may have been graced with the name John Smith.
Right.
And it might be harder to create that online identity. And if that's the case, you still need to be cognizant. Should I use a middle name? How can I consistently create a brand that reflects me and that people can quickly find me online? So you want to think about doing a Google search on yourself. I suspect that many of you have not thought to do that, even though 20% of all Google searches that are done are new Google searches. There are certain ones that are worth doing again and again, and one of those is to Google your own name.
You know, isn't that interesting? I would have thought just the opposite, that most people would have done a search on their name.
So when I teach this concept in college, one of the questions that I ask them is, how many of you have Googled themselves? How many of them have Googled themselves in the past month? A few hands are raised. How many have Googled yourselves in the past week? Not as many hands are raised. And then I ask the question, how many of you have Googled your ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends?
There you go.
Yes,
those.
Okay,
all
so
the hands go up.
So recognizing that that is something that we do and something that we do with others. We're Googling others' names and they're Googling about us. So establishing that online identity and being consistent with how you refer to yourself and giving yourself that birthday gift of a domain name, which typically costs not even $10
Right.
to secure that domain name is well worth it. The second step in the process is once you've established that identity is to be certain that you're personalizing your URLs. And again, what I'm sharing with you now is effective for both personal brands and organizational brands. So consider how individuals find you on LinkedIn, on Twitter, your own website. And there are great free tools that are available, like namecheck.com and noam.com, where you can literally type in, for example, Dawn Edmiston, and it will tell you what social media channel domain names are available for that term.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
So
That's
you
fascinating.
Do not have to do them all
don't have-
yourselves.
right.
You don't have to check each one of them individually. These great resources will help you do just that.
Excellent.
Here is an example of why you should control everything that appears when you Google yourself.
Right.
So this is a screen capture that I had done a while ago, but if you look in the corner,
And this is you.
and this is me, and it asks the question, Dawn Edmiston arrested. Okay, there is something that I never want a prospective employer, a prospective student to our college to ever think about.
Right.
So obviously, in this particular case, Dawn Edmiston arrested referred to human resource background checks,
Oh, okay.
but it was quite relevant to what we were talking about today and the importance of owning what appears in the Google search. And so personalizing your URLs on accounts such as LinkedIn allows you to create that professional online presence and allows you to own everything that appears on that first page of Google. And there's another free tool that's great for each of us to consider. It's called brandyourself.com. And it will actually do the work for you, whereby if you establish a free brandyourself.com account, it will notify you when links that appear when your name is typed, whether or not you approve those links, whether or not those links are positive. So it will let you know
Wow.
if something appears that you were not aware of appearing.
Wow, that's terrific.
So it does all of the work for you.
It does all the work, makes it so much easier.
Yes.
And you're right, you know, I mean, because I check, not that I'm Googling myself all the time, but I do go on Google Scholar to
Yes,
check.
of course,
And
of course.
so, because I like to see if my work is cited.
Yes.
Because that, to us, that's very important.
Yes.
And so I like to keep a tally of that.
Yes.
So it is very important to see what comes up when,
So-
you know, when you check your name, even on Google, just to see if your LinkedIn pages are coming up
Yes.
or if presentations you've made are coming up or whatever you've done comes up. Because again, you want to put that best face forward.
Yes.
And you want to make sure, I don't know how many Melanie Cohens there are out there, but there's more than one, I can tell you that. And so you want to make sure that the one that comes up is the one that's reflecting what I want to reflect.
Yes. And I would encourage you not only to use brandyourself.com, but do you happen to have a Google alert set for your name?
I do.
Okay, good.
I do.
So, and for those of you who may, each of us have interests. So my research interests, I've also established Google Alerts for. So they're very powerful tools, and those Google Alerts will be helpful in a moment when we talk about how to develop content that can be useful in delivering a professional online presence. So in the next slide, we want to talk about how do we develop content, because each of us 24/7 never seems to be enough.
Right.
We never seem to have enough time in our days to be able to do everything that we would like to do. So when we're thinking about developing content, we want to think about potentially developing our own website or developing our own blog, or even developing a LinkedIn profile. And now LinkedIn offers opportunities for you to post articles and for you
Right.
to publish your own articles and share your messages through LinkedIn's community. So
Right, because you could publish your own blogs there.
Absolutely.
And everybody who is, everybody has access to them.
yes, right. So developing content really has become simpler than ever before. And then, of course, once you've developed this fascinating content, we want to focus in the next slide on promoting your brand name. So when we think about online and we think about developing a professional online presence, it's very important that we never think about an online presence as a substitute for what we traditionally do. Traditional networking is still very powerful.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
But when you hand them that business card, be certain that on that business card, they have a way to connect with you through digital channels. You may even decide that you would like to have your LinkedIn profile URL on your business card. So think about how you can reinforce your digital channels through traditional opportunities, whether it's your business card, whether it's your resume. My students now, I'm encouraging them when they're developing their resumes to include their LinkedIn profile on their resume. Because I'm certain when you're looking at a resume or you're in a hiring situation, it may take you weeks to get through all of the various resumes that you've received.
Sure.
If you see their LinkedIn profile URL, you can go to their account, and assuming that it's in a digital environment, it would be the most updated profile on the individual, and that could be a very powerful way to reinforce. You use the resume, you include the LinkedIn profile URL, and it drives them to your professional online presence.
Well, you know, interestingly, as you talk about this, one of a speaker that we've had here in the past was talking about e-portfolios.
Yes.
And the idea of, instead of paper, because paper's you're not using paper as much, is developing an e-portfolio, which was actually an online, I think of it as an online resume, but it's so much more. But it will link to everything that you've done, so that instead of getting piles of papers that you're going through and potentially losing pieces of the paper, everything is online there, and you can just click through and see people's publications. You could see projects that they've done. You can see slideshows.
And quickly share it.
And
very
quickly
often,
share it.
hiring decisions are made in 24 hours. So
Right.
you may not even have a chance to FedEx your materials to where they need to be. But you can provide them with this digital URL and be able to share. And I do want to mention that what I'm sharing today is not exhaustive. I know that there are many other tools and resources that are available for you to use to develop your professional online presence. The ones I'm tending to share are the most common. So in a few moments, we'll focus upon LinkedIn because it's become one of the most effective tools for professional networking. But I don't want you to feel that I am providing with a complete list of resources. That would be difficult to do. But again, within the notes of the slides that Melanie's going to share with our audience and individuals who are interested, I've included links to these resources so that you can start using them to develop your professional online presence. And then the fifth point we want to mention is promoting the content. So we did talk about that. So if you do a LinkedIn post, if you publish on LinkedIn, don't simply publish it on LinkedIn. Be sure to share that link through your Facebook accounts, through your Twitter accounts, through other digital media channels that you might have. And you might invest. Another great tool that's available is Bitly. Bitly is a URL. It shortens your URLs, so bit.ly. And bit.ly.com allows you to create these very simple URLs so that it's not difficult to be able to share and promote the content that you've developed across other digital media channels.
Interesting. I didn't know how that worked. That's interesting. Okay.
And Bitly also allows you to track then where individuals are accessing your links from. So you can try and determine, when I promote my links through Twitter, does that tend to be more popular than if I promote them through Facebook, for example?
Oh, okay.
So, and again, that will be helpful when we start to measure and consider how we can extend our professional online presence across our audiences. I wanted to share this very creative example of an individual who created his own brand. And what's the ultimate online shopping organization at the moment? Amazon. So he literally has marketed himself as an Amazon product. And this was his resume. And it resulted in more than 1 million views in 8 days.
Wow.
I mean, that is just an incredible opportunity. So he really took his professional online presence to another level.
So isn't that interesting? So he had the opportunity, he created an opportunity for people to purchase his services.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yes. and it was a limited edition. There was only one.
Right.
And very, very effective.
Fascinating.
And so individuals who may be seeking career change opportunities, but may not know how to differentiate themselves in the market, well, when you think about it creatively in a manner like this, it proves to be very, very effective.
Okay, wow,
Very
that's quite an
effective.
idea.
Yes. So as we mentioned, networking is so important to what we do. And traditional opportunities obviously still exist, whether
Right.
you're at conferences or in airplanes.
Right.
I often now, when I connect with individuals during flights, I ask them if they have a LinkedIn account. Instead of even exchanging business cards at times, we may do that as well, but then I will connect with them on LinkedIn. But it's grown to be over 300 million users
Wow.
are connected on LinkedIn. So it's a very powerful tool. And again, even if you are planning to attend a conference, I know that you're very active in the Academy of Management, you may find that there are certain panelists that are of interest to you. And so you want to find out about those panelists, you want to connect with those panelists. You may send them a quick note on LinkedIn in advance. I am looking forward to your presentation. I hope we can remain connected on LinkedIn. And so it's a very powerful tool, and I would certainly encourage individuals to be active with it. In fact, I want to share a personal story about how LinkedIn proved to be so powerful for me.
Right.
And I know that you've heard this story.
But this is fantastic.
But this is a testament. And I mentioned at the start that I really do practice what I preach, practice what I teach. And in this case, I've taught digital marketing for practically a decade at this point. And LinkedIn has been a very powerful part of what I've taught to students. And because of that, it was important to me to also have a strong LinkedIn profile. And once a week, at the start of each week, LinkedIn provides a list of jobs that might be of interest to you. So LinkedIn looks at your profile. This is why it's so important for you to develop a LinkedIn profile. Use keywords, and when you're using keywords to describe your experiences, make certain that that's how other individuals describe those experiences too. If you're looking at changing careers perhaps, look at the position description, look at the keywords that individuals are using to describe their positions, and make certain that those keywords are reflected in your resume and on your LinkedIn profile.
Right.
And so I did that. And as you mentioned, I was teaching at St. Vincent College, and so I wanted to continue to receive these updates because I want to be able to share with my students the resources that LinkedIn offers. And last March, I received the weekly update, and the first position posted was, "We think you might be interested in this role as clinical associate professor at the College of William & Mary." And I remember looking at it, and I'm like, darn, LinkedIn, you know me so well.
Yeah,
and
right,
I had
right.
just earned tenure at St. Vincent College. I had no intention of changing jobs. And this was the only application that I had on the market.
Wow.
And it is my dream job. And I have LinkedIn to thank for it.
It's a tremendous story. I mean, I see those announcements all the time too. And I guess everybody does. And you kind of wonder, I wonder if there's really a connection that you can make through that. I wonder if what real opportunities are there. And you're a testament to the fact that it's a real opportunity.
Yes, yes. And again, though, you need to do the work.
Right.
I often receive questions at learning sessions. I seem to receive positions that are not of interest to me or do not reflect what I want to do. When you're developing your LinkedIn profile, I think we do a disservice at times to state that your resume and your LinkedIn profiles are about you, because they're really not about you at all. When you're developing your professional online presence, this is how you want individuals to perceive you. Recall from your personal brand promise, what do you have to offer to employers? So this is about them. This is about what they need and how you're able to deliver what they need. So again, make certain that you're using keywords and that you're positioning yourself not to be reflective of titles that you've held and positions, offices. Look at the skills. What have you achieved, and what can you contribute to future employers?
So it's really beyond it's much beyond the resume. It's different than the resume.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely. And I would even challenge that we need to change how we're thinking about the resumes. I work with executive recruiters. They tell me they give 6 seconds at the most, 6 seconds to reviewing a resume.
Wow.
One of the joys of using an organization or using a tool such as LinkedIn is not only, it's not a flat, one-dimensional piece of paper, but you can include the projects that you talked about. You can include videos.
Right.
So it becomes a much more engaging and immersive experience in the hopes that you can get them beyond that 6 seconds.
Oh, a little bit of that, and you know, we're certainly not pushing LinkedIn in any way, but that whole idea is, again, that e-portfolio.
Yes, 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 yes. Whatever resources are available that you can share with others, leverage those opportunities. Then in the next slide, the 7th point we want to talk about is monitoring your brand. So whether or not you do it through resources such as a Google Alert, where you create a Google Alert for yourself, or you use, again, free tools such as socialmention.com that allows you to analyze what's being said about you across channels. Very important to monitor your brand. And again, you can use this tool not only for personal purposes, but if you're starting up an organization or a business, these are great tools. You may even want to analyze your competition through tools such as these. The 8th point on the next slide is the concept of Klout and how developing a professional online presence allows you to establish Klout. Have you ever heard of Klout before?
I have not.
So Klout is an aggregator, and again, it's one of many aggregators whereby it looks at 400 different social media actions. So let's say, for example, people who have liked your Facebook posts or have retweeted your tweets. It looks at how influential you are in an online environment, and then it gives you a score upwards to 100 of your clout in an online environment. So any guesses as to who has the highest Klout score in the US?
In the US, you know, I'm thinking someone in entertainment, but I'm not sure.
At one point that was true.
Okay.
And Justin Bieber at one point had the highest Klout score.
Okay.
Interestingly, when Klout reworked its algorithms during the past few years, this gentleman had the highest Klout score, Barack Obama, the President of the United States. And so obviously, one of the most talked about individuals within the US. And so Klout continues to refine its scores. So it's reflective not of just particular industries, but that it's more reflective of the online environment as a whole. And I've actually heard of organizations who are using Klout scores to determine whether or not they will hire a digital media specialist, for example.
Oh, that's interesting, because if they have a high Klout score and they're a digital media specialist, that means they are good at getting their own message out.
Yes.
Or a message out.
Yes.
So that way you can kind of get a sense, I would think, that if they can do that for themselves,
they could do
they
that
can
for
do that for you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah.
And the final point that I want to mention on the next slide, point 9, the importance of engaging your audience. Yes, I realize that developing a professional online presence takes work, and engaging your audience takes continual work. But if you literally simply provide 10 minutes a day to find an article that you want to share, or work on developing a blog post, or reaching out to individuals within your networks. I know that you and I often do this. I saw an article that I thought might be of interest to you, and we share it with each other. That's a process of engaging your audience, and it's so critical to do. Engaging your audience and maintaining and building those relationships, and not just simply when you think that you will need them. The time to develop your professional online presence is now. Not when you have the misfortune of being terminated from a job, or you're so miserable in a current job that you're not of a good mindset to be able to develop a professional online presence. So develop that now, engage your audience now, so that you can continue to grow and expand your influence across those audiences.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You say engage the audience, so I understand that, but it's also about the relationship building.
Definitely.
It's really you know, I think of it more in terms of relationship building, than engaging the audience, because when you're talking about social media, you are engaged with a lot of people you don't know, right? But you're building some sorts of relationships with them around some kind of community of interest or something that you share. And so you're right. I mean, the really important part is, as with building any relationship, you don't do it when you need somebody, because they're never there when you need them, but you do it all along so that you have an established relationship. And that's really a key piece of it, I think, too.
Absolutely. And very often when individuals think of marketing, they think of sales.
Right.
And
right.
yes, sales is an important part of marketing, but I emphasize to them that truly the most effective sales executives are the most effective relationship builders. Where sales becomes secondary because it's all about the relationship.
Right.
It's about understanding what the individual's needs are and how to best meet their needs. So that's the concept that continues to relate relative to developing your professional online presence.
Right, and that's with anything. That's with any relationship,
Yes.
actually. And
Yes.
every work relationship is like that.
Yes.
If every work relationship was about relationship building and each person having their personal presence, or their personal mission statement, you can only imagine how successful organizations could actually be if you just employed those simple things.
Yes, agreed. And then finally, step 10 is to manage your brand presence. To be they're constantly developing new social media channels and new opportunities. And you do need to be very cognizant when you're managing your brand presence. You may decide that you need to shift direction, or you may decide that there are new opportunities and that you should focus your efforts there. But you need to be open, you need to be proactive in managing your brand presence. And I promise that building and sustaining a professional online presence will be one of your greatest personal investments. And the final slide is a statement about the power of personal branding. Your personal brand will distinctively tell your professional story to prospective employers and clients, allowing you to communicate your value, relevance, expertise, and competitive advantage. It differentiates you from the competition, and it is a sustainable strategy that positions you for career opportunities and success.
Well, that's great. I don't know if there's any questions from our panel or not. Oh, we do. We do have a question from the panel.
Thank you so much. Really very interesting, thought-provoking ideas. But you were speaking a little earlier about the importance of your profile, a LinkedIn profile, I think you were referencing, and how it differed from your resume. And in my mind, I was kind of making an analogy to a cover letter as opposed to a resume. But if I was writing a cover letter in a job search, I would confine myself to pretty standard business language and format, things of that nature. In the online world, you're a little freer to let your personality come out a little more, but are there rules of thumb about how much personality is okay and how much then becomes kind of negative?
That is a great
terrific
question. Yes, thank you. So when you are developing your personal brand promise, the expectation is that you will have an idea of where you want to be and what industry and which industry you want to work. And you do need to understand the culture. And I know that that's something that you've talked about quite often in your learning sessions. And organizational culture and understanding that organizational culture is critical, because again, this is not simply about you.
Right.
This is about what you can provide to prospective employers. And so understanding that culture and using language that is appropriate to that organization is critical. It's one of the reasons why I also suggested looking at position descriptions and how organizations of interest to you actually describe themselves, because they may be using language that's different from yours. And it is important to be able to reinforce their language and recognize that you respect and you acknowledge the language that they've developed, the culture that they've developed across their organization.
Okay, that's great. Are there any other questions from our panel? Okay, we have another question.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to know, what kind of damage control steps or can anyone take if there is negative digital information out there? on
This
them?
is
That's
a
it.
question that I am asked nearly every time I deliver a presentation on this concept. And of course, first and foremost, my hope is that I am sharing with you tools that will allow you to be proactive. So should there be a crisis situation or a situation whereby you want to ensure that individuals perceive you in the most professional manner, but that you may have a history of, I, for example, had a student, after I had delivered one of these presentations, speak with me, and they said, well, Dr. Edmiston, you might not have been arrested, but I have been. And so I do not take that lightly. I mean, I really took that to heart because that is really important. And unfortunately, in an online environment, that can continue to live with you. However, you can work to establish and focus on the positive. You can show how you've grown. You can show how you've developed. You can show how you've contributed since those moments in time. It's another reason why it's very important to establish Google alerts and establish a way of knowing and monitoring what's being said and what's being available. Not only when you look at Google, when you Google your name, do not just look at the text results, click on the images tab. I've had a few students who have been very surprised at the images that appeared. So images that were linked from friends' Twitter's accounts or friends' Facebook accounts that were really not images that they wanted to see, let their parents see, let alone prospective employers. So it is important to continually monitor. Yes, if you've had a situation that you literally want to rise above, you can do that through personalizing your URLs and developing content that positively reflects contributions that you've made since that point.
You know, that's a great point because the pictures, when you put your name in, pictures do come up. And so, again, when I put my name in, my picture comes up and other Melanie Cohens come up, okay? And so I have clicked on the images so you could see all of them because I'm thinking, of course, there's not going to be an image of me that I really don't want out there. But you never know, right? You never can tell. So, but you do want to see what's available.
Definitely, and
Because
again,
people are not going to just look at the first thing that pops up. They're going to, particularly if they really want to know something about you, they're going to look through beyond that first page. The thing is the first page. I think people don't realize that because sometimes you just see the first page and you click on what's ever on the first page. There are pages after that.
Yes.
And so, but people often forget that they don't look at those pages. That's important to look at too.
and there may be instances where you may not be able to control all of the images that appear because Melanie Cohen may be a more common or more popular name, but at least be aware of what's there so that you're not surprised when individuals ask about an article that was written. Did you write this article, or were you in this role, or were you in this image?
Right.
And that awareness, again, monitoring your brand, is a really important part of the process.
Right. I think that the Google's alert piece was very important too because, again, I do that, and I know a lot of people do that, but there's more people that do not do that. And so they don't know what's available.
And when you're searching, when you're doing that initial Google search on yourself, do yourself a favor and do it from different computers. Do it from a computer that you have never accessed before. Visit a public library. Google your name from a public library because your computers learn about you. So once they recognize that you have an interest in Melanie Cohen or Dawn Edmiston, they will start to reflect your Google search result pages will be reflective of you.
Right.
So it is very important. Borrow a friend's computer, visit the library, use Google, use Bing, use a multitude of search engines, and see how you appear in those environments as well.
That's terrific advice. We have another question from our panel.
Great.
I really appreciate your comments about monitoring and being proactive, excuse me, about your online presence. But I was wondering, has there been any research done about the relationship between a more robust online presence and identity theft? Or are there things that you can do to try and circumvent people from using the information that you're putting out there in these channels to steal your identity or masquerade as you?
Yes, I think one of the challenges when you read statistics such as 92% of all children in the U.S. under the age of 2 have a digital footprint. Now that can be frightening. And so you really do have to be sensitive as to what you share. In many aspects, for better or worse, much of what we choose to share online is already accessible in other public domains. So if individuals really want to develop or are determined to do identity theft, they will typically have access to the information. I've never heard of a student, thankfully, or an individual or a client who has ever known that their professional profiles were used as a way to foster identity theft. However, having said that, you do want to be sensitive. I mean, there are certain, and especially I'm suspect that many of the individuals here and who are engaging in this session are working for the government. So naturally, you want to be sensitive with what you're sharing and how you're positioning yourself. And when I work with individuals, and I have worked and I do advise organizations that work with the government, the best situation to do is to look for how your position is described in the public domain. And then use words and use that language to describe your achievements as you would in the public domain.
Oh, that's terrific advice, because I think what happens, and I certainly can't speak for what everyone does, but I think what a lot of people do is they look at job descriptions and they sort of pull the language out of job descriptions and put that into profiles. And what that really doesn't convey oftentimes what people are actually doing,
Right.
or what they can really contribute
Right.
in terms of being how successful they may be at their jobs, or how wonderful they could possibly be for another organization.
Yes, because this is truly not about titles, you know,
Right.
what title I have held, or
Right.
This is really what you've achieved within your role. And quite often that can be described in language that's not classified, you know, in
Right.
language that's
Right.
that's common.
Right.
But it is important to be cognizant of that, because when we work in a government environment, you know, this is the environment that we know.
Right.
And we really do need to extend our perspective beyond that environment and consider how our roles and our achievements are being described in the public domain, and use that language to describe what we have to offer.
Okay. Well, I'm going to see if there's anything else from the panel, and if not, I think we will just thank you very much
Thank
for being
you.
here with us today. I think we learned an awful lot. I know I certainly did, and I think you've offered a tremendous amount of tools for us. So I appreciate that very much, and for our audience.
Thank you.
So again, thank you all for being with us for the HUD OCIO Learning Session, and please be with us for our next month's session. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.